Hi there, I'm Anna Burns, author of Guide to the New Petite Floral Design 12 Inches and Under. And I wanted to share with you 15 plants that are good for petite designs, whether they're 12 inches and under, 8 inches under and under, or 5 inches. And let's start with the kitchen. In your kitchen, you may have red pearl onions, a box of these. When you look at the sizes, they're just perfect for a 12-inch design. I've grouped these before in a group mass by putting them on skewers, and they work just great. You see them as a round form that's purple, and not as an onion anymore when you're using them in creative design. Next, you might think about red peppers. These are peppers that I've dried and picked so that they can be used as lines in design, or you could use them as a bunch in a smaller design than 12 inches. Fruits are another example. Green grapes, purple grapes, red grapes. You may have those in your kitchen. After you've eaten them, and you have a dried stem left like this, you let it dry a little more. Then you can paint it, and you may trim it, and it's a line design. I've used this in both a 5-inch design like this, where I dried and painted the grape stem red, and then used red acorns that I painted red also with it, with this silver sculpture. It also works in a larger design if you have multiple stems. Here I dried these stems, painted them white, one red, and used them on a form that's not a sculpture, but it's the stand to my frother from in my kitchen that I use to make lattes. So here are grape stems used as lines with yarrow, red yarrow, which is another good material for petite designs. When you think about a form of a bloom like yarrow, it opens us up to the possibilities that we can section off the bloom and get little pieces that we can use in different size designs. Yarrow is that way. Celosia is another one that you can section off and paint it once it's dried, or use it fresh. Hydrangea may be the most common thing you think about when you're thinking about sections. Here's a fresh hydrangea, and you can see more easily how the sections can be broken off and then used in petite designs. And you can continue to break the sections off until you get the bloom to the scale you want in your design. Once it's dried, like this one is, you can continue and pick it apart, cut it apart the same way, and then paint it and use it for designs. So those are blooms that are successfully used by sectioning them off. Status is a different kind of bloom, but you again can pull it apart and make it different sizes. In this particular design, I have cut apart the status, and I've grouped it back together so it would be a form that was like this, and put it twice in the design on this sculpture. Going from the more cultivated plants to the wild garden, you might have a vine like this wisteria. You can form it around an object that's round and then paint it and use it in your 12-inch design. Mushrooms are another example of something that you might find in a wild garden or wild area in your forest that you can use and glue. They're already going to be dried, so you can glue them successfully into a design. The florist always has flowers pretty much that you can make work for petite design. Gravilla is one of those that my florist in particular likes a lot. You can either paint it or use it in its natural color. And again, you're going to cut apart or break apart the different parts of it so you will have it in a small enough scale to use. Hypericum. Here we have fresh hypericum that you can use first. And this is what I like about using dry plant material for Petites, because you're able to first use it in its fresh form and then let it dry and paint it, and it becomes another form, so you're really reusing it and carrying on the life cycle of that plant. Moving from the florist to your backyard, their leaves. And while I grow large leaves like aspidistra, I may not think about these as being something I can use successfully in a petite design. But once you take the rib out of it, you have got a more flexible piece of greenery, and you can then roll it up and use it in different ways and let it dry and paint it and use it in your design. You can group these together for a form and a design, or take them apart and use those. So that's one way to take a big leaf down to some smaller parts. Fatsia is another shrub that you would consider a really large leaf. So you pick this and then you cut it down or reshape it or manipulate it in any way you want to make a smaller piece of plant material for your petite design. The last two really may be things that you haven't thought about before. One is sago palm or cycas. Here we have dried these pieces of palm, or palm-like foliage, I should say. And then, while they were drying, formed them into something new. So you have a different shape to use. Once you cut your fronds really short, you've got a different shape to use in your petite designs. And lastly, we have palm, the real palm. Here is an example of one that's already drying so that we can use. And then you can cut it into a different shape to use for petite designs. Here are two examples that I've used before in the same design. It was a 12-inch design where I've dried and I painted the foliage. So I hope this has helped you sort of see foliage and berries and blooms differently, and have some different ideas of what you can use in petite floral design.